Welcome back everyone to more X4 Foundations here at Kneepit Gaming. In today's video, we're going to pick up where we left off last time. We're going to talk about what's been happening now that our wharf is built, it's completed, we have storage, of course we have energy cells you can see here over on the right hand side of the screen. We've got everything in place that we need. Now all we need are orders and supplies. So let's start with answering some of the questions that I had going into this. Number one, would this be a profitable venture? And that largely depends on another question, which is, will the AI use my wharf? Will they purchase ships from me? The answer to number one is yes, it can be a very profitable venture. In fact, I would go as far as to say that it appears you basically can print your own money with a wharf, as long as you can keep enough components and resources in there to keep it stocked. So basically you can do as much business as you want to do, which leads me into the other question of, will the AI use your wharf? And the answer is a resounding yes. In fact, I cannot keep up with the demand right now. And that really makes sense. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it made sense to me that since the AI can't use their own wharfs because they don't have the resources, that they would try to use mine, and sure enough, that's how it's worked out. Unfortunately for me, I can't keep enough resources in the wharf to build all of the ships that they want me to build. Now, before we go into the wharf itself, or at least the menu of it, let's talk a little bit about what ships are they buying. And so what blueprints do you really need to focus on? My advice would be to go to the Holy Order and the Pyramid. So you're talking about HOP and PAR. Go to those two factions and buy up their small blueprints. At the very beginning, don't worry about the medium-sized blueprints. Don't worry about those. You can get into those later. Get the small blueprints, and of course, those are going to cost much less than the medium-sized blueprints. So you should be able to get several of those in one visit, as opposed to having to wait a long time to save up. So get particularly the fighters. They will absolutely keep you busy doing nothing but fighting fleets. I've had a queue full of these since I started. In fact, when I first got the building completed, the wharf was finally completed. We had some storage. Even before I had any resources here, I had an order pop up very quickly. Unfortunately, I couldn't fulfill that order because it was taking a little while to get resources started, to get my supply chain up and going. So I lost that order, and I was worried that I might not get any more, but that turned out to not be a problem at all. So now let's talk about what it looks like inside the wharf itself. On the logical overview, what you're going to see is, of course, I'm making energy cells here. I have that up and going, so that's why you see this over here. Otherwise, this is what you would see. All of the possible components that you would need to build any of these ships. Some use more than others, obviously, depending on their size and how they're outfitted. But you can see we're doing quite well right now with keeping things either fully stocked or getting very close to it. Other things, there are a few that we are lagging behind on our inventory, and that's mostly because they're very hard to find in the galaxy. The AI simply don't have very many, in some cases any, of the stations that make these. So some of these I've started making myself just to keep supply scanning arrays. I know we're making right now, we're making engine parts, hull parts, and a few other things, I believe, that I was having a real hard time finding enough of. So we're doing okay here, but as soon as I go into the queue, you can see we have a whole lot in the queue here. We got 7 ships in the queue that we can't make right now. And this is concerning because, number one, they don't tell me what I'm missing. I have to go about finding that in a different way, which we'll look at here in a second. But before we get to that, let's actually go into management accounts and pull up this. take a look at the money in here. Now, ignore this very beginning piece because, of course, I had to add some money in here so that they could get started. But this meteoric rise that you see, that's all the ships I've been able to build. These ships, I'm getting anywhere from, say, 1.5 to 2 million for the smaller fighters, and I'm getting close to double that on the medium-sized ships. So then that brings me to the question of, okay, well, how profitable is that? I know I'm making, say, $1.5 million on a small fighter, but how much is that costing me, assuming that I'm buying all of the parts and pieces? Obviously, if you're making your own, then that changes everything. But assuming that I was buying these, I estimated I have about 100,000 credits into a small fighter. Again, there's a lot of variables to that. Sometimes it might be 85,000 credits. Sometimes it might be 135,000 credits, but somewhere around 100,000 credits. And I'm selling these for 1.5 to 2 million. That is a great deal. So extremely profitable. And as I said, if you can keep enough parts in here, you can basically print your own money. You'll have so many credits flowing in. I haven't taken any money out in a little while. For a short period of time, I was actually, every time I sold a ship, taking that money out into my own account so I could go buy more blueprints. But for the last little while, I've let it actually accumulate a little bit, and you can see that this is definitely going in the right direction. So now we've got some information here, but why are we not able to build these ships, especially since as we scroll up and down through here, we're not out of anything. Everything that we have at least some of. Now, like for the scanning arrays, we've got 1,100 of those. You generally don't need anywhere close to that to build a small ship. So what are we short on? Well, the answer to that can be found very quickly if we go under Build Ships. Now, this is the menu that you would use to, it looks just like the Wharf menus that we've seen in the past. We can build small or medium-sized ships, all of the ones we have blueprints for. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, missile components, we need almost 3,900 missile components. Now you say, wait a minute, we are full or very nearly full on missile components. Why does it show we don't have enough? Well, if we come back in, missile components, we have 434, and that's all the resource or the storage we have right now for that. So we are sorely lacking on storage. So my advice to you is don't make the same mistake I did. I thought I was going to be in really good shape if we come back out. I thought I was going to be in good shape because we started off with 3 medium-sized storages. I knew we were going to need more than that. So I very quickly added 2 large storages. These are the Telati versions. I added those in very quickly. And now we're working on a 3rd one, and we need more than that. So you can see we need as much storage as we can fit on this thing. It is amazing to me just how much storage we need and just how high the demand is right now for these ships. So it's sort of the best of all worlds and the worst of all worlds right now. And for that reason, I've actually started a new playthrough where I'm going to hope for better results. And here's what I mean. It's the best of all possible worlds right now because I'm the only wharf that was able to get any ships built. Everybody else was at a standstill, missing components. Now you can see that the worst of all the worlds is that I've now run into a shortage of components. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to continue in this playthrough, because continuing would mean, in all likelihood, I'm going to have to start filling out all of the stations that are needed and building all of those myself. And while I'm not against that, at this point, after this many hours in this playthrough, it's a lot to take on, and I'm going to need a ton of credits to do that, and I'm just not sure I want to go that route. So the reason I would start over and what do I want to try different? The biggest thing is I've learned in this playthrough that the economy is no good. Any updates and fixes that they added into version 2.0 aren't having a huge effect for me. We're still, the wharfs within a couple of hours are out of materials. Whether it's hull parts or engine parts or whatever it is, they're out of materials very quickly, just a couple of hours into the game. So that's no good. And then the other part is that it doesn't seem to get really any better as time progresses. They're certainly not building an influx of new stations to meet the demand that is out there, even on their own faction side, much less an outsider like me trying to build for other factions. So I'm just not sure that I want to go through all the trouble to fix this. Of course, there's a part of me that does, because I'd really like to see what the demand would be. How often, am I always going to have my QB completely full, 5, 6, 7 ships in there and keep it full? Or is that going to die down after a while? So these are all questions that I still have. But now let's talk a little bit about the new playthrough. What I want to do in it is I'm still going to rush my way back to building the wharf as quickly as I can. That part is not going to change. What is going to change is that I've started from the very beginning with some economic help. I've installed now 2 mods, one that I've been using and a second new one that I think is really going to help out. You guys may have noticed a comment on one of the recent X4 videos, I forget which one off the top of my head, from the creator of an AI trader mod. And that particular mod, I'd actually tried it out in the past, but I didn't realize everything that it could do, so I moved away from it. I'm now going to try that again because now I understand, and the author was kind enough to post directly on one of my videos, so I greatly appreciate that. But I now know that not only does it overhaul the auto trade feature that we have standard in the game for the player side, but it also affects the NPCs. It makes the NPC traders work much more efficiently, which should get the economy going at least better than it has been so far by default. So that's what I'm going to find out in that playthrough. How much does it help? Can it help enough to keep things going? And of course, the other economic mod that I use is the trade station mod, which adds a drain script to the trade station, basically meaning that trade stations will never run out of demand. As soon as they get full of a certain thing, it actually will drop the number of resources that are there and simulate the consumption that would normally be going on in the universe. So with that in mind, I'm very excited about what the future holds for this. Now that I know that the wharf can be a huge moneymaker. For how long? Who knows? Is it ultimately going to make enough profit to offset all of the millions of credits that I've spent? Who knows? But I can tell you one thing, and this is, for me, the most important thought to end the video with, and that is I'm having a blast doing this. It's very frustrating to be short on resources and not be able to find them when you need them, but I'm having a blast setting up trade routes, building things, stations, wharfs, you name it. I'm having an absolute blast with this game and hope to continue having a blast with it. So that's going to do it for now. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned as we will continue with more X4 Foundations gameplay.